He just wanted to eat in silence. But instead, he found a note written by trembling hands, and a few words that would change everything. I want to be like you. Michael had no idea that by pulling out that chair, his life would intersect with a boy invisible to the eyes of the world, nor that this small folded piece of paper would be the beginning of something far greater than any fortune he had ever amassed. It was an ordinary Tuesday. A light rain streamed down the restaurant windows, painting the city in shades of melancholy. Most of the tables were empty. The ambient music was soft, but there was something in the air, a dense silence, almost spiritual. Michael always sat at the same table, by the window, not out of habit but memory. That was where he had dinner with his mother, the night he signed his first $1 million contract. It was also where he last heard his father say, "I'm proud of you." After that, success came like an avalanche. Companies, cars, trips, magazine covers, but no victory ever compared to that napkin. Yes, a napkin. When he pulled out the chair, he saw the small, carefully folded paper resting on the seat, as if it had been waiting for him. When he opened it, he read, "I want to be like you. L. Nothing more. No explanation, no full name. Just that. A simple sentence. But it landed in his chest like a silent thunder. Michael frowned. He read it once, twice. The handwriting was childlike. The letters danced across the line as if the writer had been nervous or emotional. Who would leave something like this? And why? He called over the waiter, a young, attentive man who already recognized him. "Sorry to bother you. Did someone leave this here?" he asked, holding up the napkin. "Yes, sir." It was last night. A small boy, looked about 11, maybe 12. He stood outside for a long time watching you through the window. Then he came in, sat at this table, wrote that, and ran out. Michael felt his heart race. And not because of age. It was something deeper, a familiar discomfort, like the past had been summoned back. In the days that followed, he tried to forget, but he couldn't. The words haunted him like an echo. "I want to be like you." He had heard praise before. He had inspired young entrepreneurs, students chasing their future, rookie investors. But there was something about that note, something purer, more real. That sentence didn't come from someone who wanted money, fame, or advice. It came from a boy who just wanted a role model, an anchor, a direction. Michael started visiting the restaurant more often. He'd look out the window, watch every face that passed by on the sidewalk, hoping to see that boy, the mysterious L. No one came, until, 1 week later, on a cloudy Saturday afternoon, something happened. Michael was leaving the restaurant, frustrated, nearly ready to give up on ever finding the note's author. That's when he heard a soft voice, almost shy. "Excuse me, sir?" He turned around. It was him, a skinny boy, dark-skinned, wearing faded clothes, messy hair, holding a torn backpack, but in his eyes, the kind of glow poverty can't extinguish. "Were you the one who found my note?" he asked, hesitant. Michael nodded. His throat tightened. "Sorry I left it like that. It's just, I saw you wearing those nice clothes, looking so confident, like someone who already made it in life. And I wanted to be like you someday." His voice trembled, and along with it, something broke inside Michael. He didn't know the boy's name, but he already knew that this moment would change everything. Michael didn't respond right away. He just looked at the boy as if he were staring at something the world had long forgotten. The innocence of someone who still believes in people. There, in the middle of the wet sidewalk, under the gray sky of an ordinary afternoon, a man used to meetings and numbers was disarmed by a simple, hopeful gaze. "What's your name?" he finally asked. "Liam." The name came with a slight shrug, as if the boy was already used to being ignored after introducing himself. "How old are you, Liam?" "I'll be 12 next month. If things go well, Michael raised an eyebrow at that answer. If things go well? What kind of child talks like that? Do you come around here often? He asked, trying to learn more. Sometimes. My mom works nearby. But now she's sick, so I'm mostly on the streets. We don't get much help, and sometimes we don't have much to eat either. Michael felt a tightness in his chest. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. Because decades ago, he too had been hungry. He too had been afraid. And he too had looked at someone and thought, if I could just be half of what they are, maybe I can get out of here. Michael took a deep breath and, with a simple gesture, opened the restaurant door again. Come on, let's really talk. With food on the table, Liam hesitated, looked around as if breaking some invisible rule from his world. But he walked in. They sat at the very table where it all began. The napkin table. The I want to be like you table. The waiter brought 2 generous plates. Liam devoured his food so quickly that Michael ordered 2 more before the boy even noticed. While he ate, Michael simply observed. Each bite was like a silent confession. Of hunger, of abandonment, of a boy fighting in a world that never expected him to go beyond the corner of his street. After eating, Liam began to speak, and once the words came, they didn't stop. He talked about his mother, who worked as a cleaner but had been fired for coughing too much. He spoke of the father he never met, about the school he attended, when he had the time, about the old notebook where he wrote dreams he never showed to anyone. I write stories, he said shyly. Like movies. Someday I want to write a book. But I don't know. It feels like nonsense. Nobody reads that kind of stuff where I live. Michael couldn't hide his emotion. An invisible boy, fatherless, homeless, and yet full of dreams. It was as if he were looking at a younger version of himself. The difference was, when he was a child, someone reached out a hand, and that hand pulled him out of the depths. Now, maybe, it was his turn. Liam, let me tell you something, he said gently. When I was your age, I used to write too, but no one believed in me. One day, a man saw me with a scribbled notebook on the street. And you know what he did? Liam shook his head, curious. He didn't give me money or food. He gave me a yes. He said, I believe in you. And that changed everything. Liam looked at him as if he were hearing a legend. So, do you think I can too? Michael didn't hesitate. I don't just think it. I know it. The boy smiled, a smile that seemed to light up the entire table. And in that moment, Michael made a decision, one that wasn't part of any plan, nor any business strategy, but had everything to do with purpose. Do you have a place to sleep tonight? Liam looked down, ashamed. I don't know. Maybe the bus station again. Michael pulled out his phone, made a quick call, then looked the boy in the eyes. That changes now. You're coming with me. Not forever, not as charity, but because every talent deserves a chance, and because no one who writes stories should sleep out in the cold. That night, Liam didn't sleep at the bus station. He slept in a room with clean sheets, warm lighting, and a blanket that didn't smell like mildew. It was a guest room in Michael's house. Nothing fancy, but to Liam, it felt like a hotel room on another planet. Before sleeping, he stared at the ceiling, trying to understand what was happening. It was as if he had been pulled from one world and thrown into another. Without warning, without a map, Michael, on the other hand, sat in his office, still holding the napkin. The phrase continued to echo. I want to be like you. It wasn't about money or success. It was about legacy, about what we truly leave behind in someone's heart. The next day, Michael called an old friend, a principal at a private school. He explained the situation, asked for a chance for Liam. He didn't want favors. He was willing to pay for everything: tuition, transportation, supplies. But most importantly, he wanted Liam to be treated like any other student. No labels, no pity, with dignity. 3 days later, Liam wore a brand-new uniform, his eyes wide open in front of a building that looked like a castle compared to his former school. I'm really going to study here? He asked in disbelief. You are. And not just study. You're going to show that you deserve to be here as much as anyone else. Liam took a deep breath. He felt the world spin in a different way. For the first time, he wasn't running against time, against hunger, or against neglect. He was simply starting. Time passed, and with it came the challenges. Liam was smart, but the learning gap was evident. He struggled with math, read slower than the other students, and sometimes misspelled simple words. Many laughed at him. Some teachers doubted his potential, but Michael was always there, not as a savior, but as a mentor. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep trying. And Liam tried. Every single day, he came home with questions, scribbled notebooks, and tired eyes. But he never stopped writing. In the worn-out notebook he still carried, he kept inventing stories. Now with characters who talked about hope, about fresh starts, about boys who wrote messages on napkins and changed their lives. One day, after nearly 6 months living with Michael, something happened. Liam was in the office, looking for a pen, when he found a box in the back of a drawer. Inside were dozens of letters, old photographs, newspaper clippings, and one item in particular caught his attention. It was a photo of Michael, still young, wearing humble clothes, sitting on a sidewalk, notebook in hand. On the back of the photo, a handwritten dedication. To the boy who taught me that dreams don't die, even when we almost give up. Liam stayed silent. Michael entered the room and saw the boy holding the photo. That person was the one who believed in you? Liam asked. Michael nodded, moved. Yes, he gave me my first job, my first book, my first vote of confidence. And he never asked for anything in return. He only said, "When it's your turn, pass it on." Liam stared at him, as if each word were being tattooed onto his soul. One day, I'll do that too. You already are, Liam, Michael replied. You just don't realize it yet. That night felt different. Michael saw something had changed in the boy's gaze. He was no longer the scared kid with a torn backpack. He was someone beginning to understand his own worth. And deep down, maybe that's what Michael had always searched for. Not just to change a life, but to awaken the kind of faith that transforms the world from the inside out. Days later, Liam asked to do something special. He wanted to go back to the restaurant where it all began. They sat at the same table, the same window, the same rainy weather. Liam placed a new napkin on the table and wrote with a steady hand, "Thank you for seeing me." Michael read it, smiled, and replied with a different pen, just below, "I never stopped seeing you." That night, on their way home, Liam remained silent the whole drive. But it wasn't a silence of sadness. It was a kind of peace he was still learning how to carry. The peace of someone who, for the first time, didn't have to run, Michael noticed. And for the first time in many years, he felt at peace too. Not the peace of someone who has everything, but the peace of someone who finally understands why he has it. As the months went by, Liam blossomed. His school performance improved. The stories he wrote began to take shape, gaining coherence and emotion. One day, a teacher found one of his forgotten drafts at the bottom of his backpack and, deeply moved, asked permission to read it to the class. The classroom listened in complete silence. And when she finished, no one laughed. Quite the opposite. One girl stood up and clapped. Then another, and another. Liam blushed, unsure where to hide his face. But that day, he went home carrying something he had never felt before: pride in himself. Meanwhile, Michael was changing too. He was no longer the man obsessed with meetings, targets, status. He started declining invitations he once considered unmissable. He started spending more time at home. And most of all, he began writing again. Writing? Liam asked, surprised. Yes, you inspired me to go back to it. Before I was a businessman, I dreamed of being a writer. But I left that dream behind, because the world demanded speed. Liam smiled, eyes shining. Then write with me. Let's do a book together. Michael laughed, emotional. A book with you? With both of us. A story about new beginnings, Michael agreed. That night, they began planning the book. Each chapter, a conversation. Each conversation, a bridge between two lives that, whether by fate or chance, crossed paths at that corner restaurant. One afternoon, while digging through old notebooks, Liam found his original draft of the phrase he had once written on a napkin. It was a torn sheet, filled with poorly written attempts. I want to be like you. I'd like to know your name. How did you get to where you are? Between the lines, there were scribbles, doubts, crossed-out words, and a note at the bottom. Maybe he'll never read this, but if he does, maybe he'll see me. Liam stood still, holding the paper. Michael walked into the room and saw it in his hands. That was all I had that day, Liam whispered. And it was everything I needed to remember who I was, Michael replied. The book moved forward slowly, but steadily. Michael and Liam wrote at night, on Sundays, during holidays. Between laughs, they revised sections, created dialogues, invented characters. But what they were truly writing was their own story. One day, Michael received a call from a major publisher, someone he had done business with in the past. He mentioned the book. The story. Liam, is it real? The editor asked, intrigued. So real it sometimes feels made up. Send me the manuscript. If it's all that, I think we've got something big. Michael hesitated. It was the boy's dream, but it was also something intimate, delicate. He didn't want to turn it into a spectacle, but Liam didn't hesitate. Let's show the world. There are other kids like me out there. If someone reads it, maybe they'll find their own Michael. Or maybe they'll find the courage to keep going. The manuscript was sent. No expectations. No rush. 2 weeks later, the phone rang. It was the editor, crying. You have no idea what you've done here. This story needs to be published. And not just that. It needs to become a film, a talk, a movement. Michael was speechless. Liam, sitting beside him, listened wide-eyed. Is this for real? He asked. Michael smiled. Liam, the world just heard you. The book launch was scheduled for 4 months later, and this time, it wasn't Michael who organized it. It was Liam. He insisted on choosing the venue, the restaurant where it all began. I want people to know that miracles aren't born on grand stages. Sometimes they begin on a forgotten napkin. Michael simply nodded. The boy was right. Some stories don't need a stage. They just need to be told. Truthfully, the restaurant looked different that night. The lights were brighter, the tables covered in fresh linens, and a small makeshift stage stood in the corner, right by the window where, months before, Liam had left a napkin that would change everything. The book launch attracted more people than Michael had anticipated. Journalists, teachers, entrepreneurs, curious neighbors, even young writers who had read snippets of the story on social media and felt touched by the journey of that shy-eyed boy with a giant heart, were all there. But none of them knew what was about to happen. That night, Liam wore a navy blue blazer borrowed from Michael. It was still a bit loose on the shoulders, but the sparkle in his eyes filled any empty space. He held the first copy of the book with both hands, as if holding a trophy or a miracle. On the cover, the title, Between Napkins and Dreams, by Liam M. and Michael. Michael watched the boy with quiet admiration. This night belonged to him. Michael had experienced major events before: luxurious parties, dinners with politicians, award ceremonies. But nothing compared to this moment. Here was the real prize, witnessing someone bloom. Liam was called to the microphone. He swallowed hard. The crowd fell silent. "Good evening," he began, his voice slightly shaky. "It feels strange to be here. I'm not used to so many people listening to me. Most of the time, I speak, and the world just moves on. But today, I wanted to tell you all that everything started with a sentence I wrote on an old napkin because I didn't have the courage to say it out loud, looking someone in the eye. The audience listened attentively, as if each word were sacred. I want to be like you. That's what I wrote. I didn't know his name. I didn't know if he'd even read it. But I had to try, because sometimes all we have is one chance. And a piece of paper. People smiled. Some were already wiping away discreet tears. I wrote that out of hunger. Yes, hunger for food. But more than that, hunger to be seen. Hunger to believe that my life could be different. And that day, God showed me that he sees the invisible. Michael lowered his head. His chest tightened. His hands trembled. Liam went on. And he did it through a man who could have ignored me. Who could have thrown the note away? But he didn't. He saw me. And because of that, today I can write, study, dream. Because of that, I exist. The restaurant erupted into applause. But Michael didn't clap right away. His eyes were misty, lost in deep thought. Liam's words pierced him like a letter written directly to his soul. After the speeches, the hugs, and the photos, Michael stepped away toward the back of the restaurant. He needed air. He needed silence. That's when he felt a small hand touch his arm. "Can I talk to you?" It was a boy, even smaller than Liam. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old. "Of course," Michael replied, kneeling to meet him at eye level. "I read the book. My mom showed it to me. And I wrote something for you." The boy pulled something from his pocket. A napkin. Michael took the paper, heart pounding. He unfolded it carefully. There it was, written in a child's handwriting. "I want to be like the boy in your book." Michael covered his face with both hands, holding back tears. There it was again, the same phrase, but now directed at Liam. The cycle continuing. "What's your name?" he asked, moved. "Brian. Brian. You're already special. Never forget that." Later, in the car, Michael and Liam were driving home. Neither said a word for a few minutes, until Liam broke the silence. "Did you see the boy with the napkin?" "I did. I think." "Now it's his turn." Michael smiled, his gaze calm and steady. "Then let's help him." The book didn't remain just among friends. In less than 2 months, it became a phenomenon. Translations, invitations, interviews. Liam was invited to speak at schools, shelters, and conferences, and everywhere he went, he left behind a seed of possibility. And Michael? Michael discovered that even after 50, life can still begin anew. He learned that wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in what we awaken in others. And along that journey, from one napkin to the next, he finally understood. It was never about saving the world. It was about seeing one person at a time. Liam and Michael's story began to cross borders. First it was social media, then the news. In no time, Between Napkins and Dreams became a topic in conversations, school debates, book clubs. But while the world placed them under the spotlight, the two kept one thing untouched: the simplicity where it all began. "You know what I loved the most about all this?" Liam asked one evening as they sipped hot chocolate on the porch. "What?" Michael replied, curious. "That you still let me wash the dishes when I insist, even now that I've been in the newspaper." Michael laughed, a laugh full of relief, like someone realizing that the essential was still alive. "Fame doesn't wash dishes, Liam. And those who forget that end up dirty on the inside." That week, they received an unusual invitation. A public school in the outskirts of another city wanted Liam to speak to the students. It was an underfunded institution with leaky classrooms and makeshift chairs, but hundreds of kids starving to believe in something. Michael didn't hesitate. He rented a car, and off they went. Upon arriving, they found a small crowd of students waiting. Many were holding notebooks, others blank napkins, all with wide, eager eyes. "Is he real?" a little girl whispered to the teacher. "Yes," she smiled. "And he came just for you." Liam stepped onto the makeshift stage in the school courtyard. The microphone kept cutting out. The sound was weak. But the message roared. I grew up thinking my voice was too small, that my dream was too big, that I was way too invisible. But I discovered that everything changes when someone sees you. And if no one's seen you yet, write anyway. Write on paper, on walls, in the wind. Because someone will hear, and when they do, it'll be your turn to change someone's world too. The courtyard gave him a standing ovation. After the event, a coordinator approached, eyes full of tears. She showed them a shelf with a few old books and said, "I've always wanted to build a library here, but we never have funding." Liam looked at Michael. Michael already knew. "We'll take care of it," he said. "But no buts. We'll donate books, build shelves, paint the walls, and put one of your quotes at the entrance." Liam smiled, but made a request. "Then let it not be my quote. Let it be from that first napkin." "I want to be like you," Michael nodded. And that's how the first public library of the project was born, later named Between Napkins. The initiative spread. Libraries began to pop up in underserved communities across other cities. Groups of young people started gathering to read, write, and share their stories. And with every new opening, one thing remained the same: a framed napkin at the entrance, with that sentence, simple but powerful. Despite all the growth, Michael stayed grounded, still woke up early, read the news with black coffee, and closely followed Liam's studies. But one piece of news, in particular, left him breathless one morning. It was an email. Subject: diagnosis confirmed. Michael froze. His hand trembled slightly. His heart slowed down, almost trying to better hear the news before reacting. It was from his doctor. A test done weeks earlier, just as a precaution. But now, the answer came with weight: leukemia. Early stage. Treatable, but aggressive. Michael closed the laptop slowly, looked out the window, saw Liam in the yard playing with the dog they had adopted. The boy was laughing, free, full of life. And at that moment, Michael realized he couldn't postpone anything. Not silence, not goodbyes, not love. That night, he sat with Liam at the table and said, "I need to tell you something." The boy stopped eating and looked at him intently. "I'm sick. But it's the kind of thing we can fight, okay?" Liam went silent, his face serious. His eyes started to glisten. "Are you going to be okay?" Michael took a deep breath. "I don't know. But I'll fight with everything I've got. I'll be with you, the whole time. Just like you were with me." Michael smiled, his eyes moist. "I know, but I want you to know something. If one day I'm not here anymore, everything we created, everything you are, it goes on. And if you want, you can take care of it all." Liam took a while to respond, but when he did, his voice was steady. "I'm not going to take care of it. I'm going to continue it." That night, Liam wrote alone. He wrote like never before, about loss, about faith, about going on, even when the ground disappears beneath you. And when he finished, he wrote a new phrase on a napkin. "I want to be like me." He placed it beside Michael's bed and fell asleep in peace. The following days were different, quieter, more intense. Every breakfast became a chance to give thanks. Every small talk took on an almost sacred weight. Time, once invisible, was now counted in hugs, in laughter, and in Liam's attentive eyes, always watching Michael as if trying to memorize the way of someone he knew he'd miss. The treatment began quickly. Chemotherapy, tests, appointments. Michael, once so strong, now saw himself fragile. Thinning hair, pale face, exhaustion that didn't ask for permission. But he never complained, because he knew Liam still looked at him with the same admiration as before. And that gave him the strength to go on, even on days when his body begged him to stop. While Michael fought, Liam grew stronger. He started taking care of the house, the appointments, the mail. At 13, he carried the maturity of someone much older. But it wasn't out of duty, it was out of gratitude. "You don't have to do all this," Michael said one afternoon, watching him do the laundry. "I know, but I want to. You were the one who taught me to take care of what matters." Michael smiled. Liam had grown. Not just in height, but in soul. The Between Napkins project didn't stop either. Even with Michael's health fluctuating, Liam took on more and more of the presentations, the meetings, the decisions. One day, he was invited to a live interview on a national television show. Michael couldn't go with him because of the treatment. But he watched everything from the hospital, eyes glistening and heart bursting with pride. Liam, on camera, looked like someone else. Confident, moved, steady. People think my life changed because of a businessman. But the truth is, my life changed because a man chose to see me, chose to listen to a sentence written on a napkin. And that taught me that no one is too small to inspire something great. In the studio, total silence. On the screen, Liam's face reached the entire country. And in the hospital, Michael cried quietly. Time passed. Months became a year. And Michael got worse. His body no longer responded to the treatments as before. The doctors were honest. Time was short. He didn't tell Liam right away. He didn't want to scare him. But the boy already knew. He could feel it in the gestures, the look, the softer tone of voice. Until one cold night, they were sitting in the garden. Michael wrapped in a blanket. Liam beside him, wearing a coat, hands in his pockets. "Can I ask you something?" Michael said. "Of course. Are you afraid of losing me?" Liam paused, then nodded, his eyes filled with tears. "I am. But I'm more afraid of forgetting what you taught me." Michael placed his hand over Liam's. "Then don't forget, because that will keep you standing." In his final days, Michael made a special request. "I want you to read the book with me, out loud." One last time, Liam took the worn-out copy, sat beside the bed, and began. Chapter by chapter, page by page, they relived it all again. The rain on the first night, the table by the window, the napkin, the note, the conversation. The new beginning. As he read, Liam cried, but kept going, because he knew. It was a silent farewell, a goodbye without the word end. When he reached the final sentence, his voice trembled. Some stories don't change the whole world, but they change a world. And that's everything. Michael squeezed his hand, smiled. "Thank you for reminding me who I am." Liam simply responded with a kiss on the forehead. The next morning, Michael passed, in peace, without pain, with the expression of someone who had fulfilled their mission. Liam found him asleep, eyes closed, and on his chest, a napkin. It was the same one from months before. But now, with a new sentence written by Michael, in shaky handwriting, "Now, I want to be like you," Liam cried. Cried like someone who had lost a father, but also like someone who had received an inheritance that couldn't be measured in possessions. Because in that note, Michael gave everything back and passed the torch. The funeral was simple, but filled with people. People who had read the book. People touched by a single gesture. People who never met Michael in person, but somehow felt part of the story. Liam spoke, with a steady voice, like someone honoring a legacy. "He gave me a future. Now I will give that future to others. From today on, Between Napkins will continue. But now, with a new purpose." And so, the story didn't end. Because real stories never end. They are passed from hand to hand, from table to table, from paper to paper, from soul to soul. And it all began with a simple sentence, written by an invisible boy, on a forgotten napkin, in just any restaurant. 3 years had passed since the goodbye. Liam was now 16, taller, voice more grounded, but the same eyes. The kind that see beyond what the world shows. The kind that once said, "I want to be like you," and now inspired others to write their own notes. Between Napkins had become an internationally recognized foundation. Schools, libraries, creative writing centers in dozens of communities. But Liam refused titles like founder, president, or director. "I'm just the kid who wrote a note," he would always say when asked. The house where he had lived with Michael was kept just the way it was. Even after everything, Liam didn't want to leave. That's where the memories were. The steps, the shared silence, the couch where they watched movies, the porch of hot chocolates, the office where the book was born. But there was a new room now, a small writing studio set up in the old guest room. That's where Liam was writing the second book, not about his own story, but about the stories that came after his boys who left napkins in schools, fairs, diners, girls who wrote to their moms, to themselves, to God. Each one, a spark. Each napkin, a voice. The title? Now It's My Turn. One day, while organizing old papers, Liam found the old notebook, the one he used to scribble dreams in back when he slept at the bus station. Yellowed pages, some torn, others smudged with dried tears. He reread everything. Stories of poor superheroes, letters to an unknown father, scripts for impossible movies, and one text called The Last Hug, never finished. Flipping through, he landed on the page with the first attempt at a note. Maybe he'll never read this, but if he does, maybe he'll see me. Liam closed his eyes, smiled, and softly said, "He saw me." The following week, he was invited to speak at a prestigious university. Packed auditorium, hundreds of young people, all expecting lessons, punchlines, formulas for success. Liam stepped onto the stage with an envelope in his pocket. "No PowerPoint, no résumé. Just a story." They asked me to talk about overcoming, about how to come from nothing and build something. But all I have is a napkin. And a man who believed in me. The silence was complete. Liam continued, "I learned that the difference between holding on and giving up sometimes fits into 5 words. I want to be like you." That sentence gave me food, a home, school, but above all, it gave me identity. He pulled the envelope from his pocket. Inside, the original napkin, now framed. This isn't just paper. It's a bridge, a miracle, a memory. At the end, the audience gave a standing ovation. Among them, a young woman approached, eyes filled with tears. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her bag, handed it to him. "This is my napkin," she said. "I never had the courage to give it to anyone. But today, you gave me that courage." Liam opened it. It read, "I want to be like me." Liam smiled, gently touched the paper. "That's the next step. Not wanting to be like anyone else, but becoming who you were born to be." She cried and hugged him. Sometime later, Liam returned to the restaurant. It no longer had the same owner. The decor had changed, but the table by the window was still there. He ordered a coffee, sat alone, and pulled a new napkin from his backpack. With a steady hand, he wrote, "If you're reading this, maybe it's because you're also looking for someone to see you. Know that I see you." He folded the napkin carefully and left it on the chair, walked away without looking back. Because Liam knew the most beautiful stories don't need to be watched. They just need to be continued. Michael was gone, but his legacy lived on in every napkin written after his, in every Liam yet to be seen, in every dream yet to be read. And maybe, somewhere in the world right now, another boy is holding a pen, with sweaty hands, and a heart whispering, "Maybe he'll never read this, but if he does, maybe he'll see me." And that's why stories like this never end. They simply begin again, folded, handwritten, and left on the right chair. If this story touched your heart, write in the comments, "I was seen too." Share it with someone who needs to believe again. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep following stories that remind us of what the world has forgotten. That a single gesture, no matter how small, can change everything. And if you have a napkin, a phrase stuck in your chest, or a dream no one's heard yet, This is your sign to write, because you never know who might read it and see you.